Every community has its famous historical figures, and most of these heroes are even well known beyond their communities, thanks to the respect they managed to garner due to their morals, worldview, wisdom, and achievements. Today, we'll be looking at one of such figures, and her name is Mepoho. Mepoho is a prophetess and divine leader among the Mijikenda tribe, who is mostly remembered for prophesying the coming of the white man. Unfortunately, a little has been written about Mepoho, which is to be expected given the time she existed. But this has also resulted in many people confusing her with Mekatilili Menza, the freedom fighter who led the Mijikenda tribe against the British colonial rule in the late 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. Also, unlike other prophets from interior Kenya like Kimau, Mugwa Kibiru, and Maina na Lukale, Mepoho's prophecy regarding the coming of the white man did not only refer to the invasion of the British, but also the coming of the Persians and early explorers like Vasco da Gama. The nature of her prophecy, however, does slightly align with some of the other prophets, as it also includes a warning of how the invention of the white man will result in widespread wars and loss of life, not forgetting the corruption of the Mijikenda culture and way of life. Anyway, before checking out her prophecy, let's start by looking at her origin. The parents of Mepoho are not really known, but her first appearance is dated around the 13th century. One day many years ago, a big storm hit present-day Kaloleni. The wind collided with clouds and resulted in heavy rains that pounded the earth for a whole night, and the showers were so heavy and the thunderstorms so loud that no one from the Mijikenda community dared to leave his or her house for the fear they would have gotten swept away by the rain. Heavy clouds blotted out the stars as well. Anyway, shortly after sunrise, the rain stopped and the people started going home to home, checking on one another to make sure that no one was missing. Luckily, everyone was okay. Now, as was customary in the Mijikenda community, that morning, a group of ladies made their way to the pond to fetch water needed for that day's activities. The pond was also located in Kaloleni. Shortly after reaching the pond, the ladies had a little baby crying, which as expected, took them all by surprise. What was a child doing at the pond alone, especially bearing in mind that the pond was located a long distance away from the nearest village? Most importantly, the heavy rains accompanied by strong winds from the previous night meant that it was very unlikely that someone walked in the condition to leave a baby near the pond. And since no footprints could be seen around the location, they had to be the first people to visit the pond after the rain had stopped. A combination of all these factors that were running through their minds further mystified the discovery of the infant, which in turn filled all the ladies at the scene with fear. A portion of them ran back to the village to notify everyone, while the smaller group that had been left at the pond went closer to investigate. It was a baby dressed in a blue cloth the tribe calls Musimbiji. Among the Mijikenda, blue clothes signify divinity, and female religious leaders wear blue garments the tribe calls Handora Musimbiji. One of the ladies present at the scene knelt and picked up the baby, and as she would later say when asked why she decided to pick up the child instead of waiting for the elders to confirm that it wasn't some sort of black magic trap laid down by the adversaries, she claimed that she didn't know why she picked up the baby, only that she felt compelled to do so. Anyway, after picking up the child and ascertaining that it was a girl, they took her back to the village, where their fellow residents tried finding out if any lady in the neighborhood was recently pregnant but was missing a child. As expected, there was none, and so as per tradition, the lady that had picked her up was required to be the one to adopt her. The necessary rituals were carried out, and after the baby girl had been officially adopted, she moved in with her savior who named her Mepoho. Now, the Mijikenda used to host spiritual dances known as Ngoma za Pepo in the native language. These dances were only attended by people past puberty, and the community believed that it appeased their ancestors and brought them closer to God. So, when Mepoho came of age and got initiated as a young woman, she was then allowed to attend the dances with her peers. At her first dance, while the energy at the dance floor was hitting a climax, Mepoho started shaking and talking about scenarios no one in the crowd could understand. Luckily, her community's council of elders had seen that reaction before, and they instantly understood that she had been chosen by God to lead them as their next religious leader. When Mepoho came back to her senses, she was told everything that had taken place, and after things that she had talked about at the dance came to pass, she was officially introduced as their next religious leader. In line with Mijikenda tradition, a three-legged stool was also erected at the middle of the dancing ground, which was where Mepoho would usually sit during each spiritual dance and prophesy if anything particularly essential was going to take place in the near future. Some of the events she foretold during her lifetime include rainy seasons, droughts, famines, floods, impending disasters, and even warnings whenever the neighboring tribes were conspiring on attacking their community. The last one was particularly important as it allowed the tribe's warriors to prepare accordingly for the imminent attacks. That said, just like one would expect from a religious leader, her roles in the community weren't confined to the prophesying department only. Other roles she played in the community include going before God on behalf of the entire community to ask for guidance and forgiveness whenever catastrophe struck, advising the village's medicine specialists on what they needed to use in case new diseases infected the community, offering sacrifices and libations on behalf of our entire community, blessing the lands before planting and after harvesting, helping the community's council of elders come up with solutions when faced with complex problems in the community, and most importantly, passing on the community's history and culture through daily oral storytelling sessions after supper. In a nutshell, whenever the community was faced with an issue that the council of elders couldn't solve or had never handled before, they would usually turn to Mepoho. The present-day Mijikenda community isn't sure if Mepoho ever got married, as there is no lineage directly linked to her, but they do know that she was from the Wamamweni clan that can be found at Kableni. In fact, to this day, you'll find a shrine at Kableni believed to have been used by Mepoho herself during prayers and rituals. In addition to that, it isn't clear whether she lived to attain old age, but legend has it that on one early morning, Mepoho woke up and went straight to the head of the council of elders to ask him that a spiritual dance had to be organized because she had an important message she wanted to pass on to the people. A spiritual dance wasn't supposed to be held on that specific day, but the elder understood that this only meant that the message she had must have been extremely important. And hey, before we continue, I share images on Instagram and Twitter about different interesting tricks our communities used to survive in the past. So make sure you check me out there as well. I'll leave a link to my profiles in the description below. Back to the legend of Mepoho. The dance was organized for that evening, and as usual, Mepoho took a position on a three-legged stool at the middle of the arena. As the drummers were performing their act, Mepoho got possessed and started narrating the prophecy she will be remembered for generations to come. In the near future, there will come a group of people with white hair like sisal fibers. When these individuals come, you'll also witness large and mysterious boats on the seas, the land, and even the sky. Your daughters will start giving birth before getting initiated as women, and these people will also take the snuff. When all these things come to pass, your culture will have been destroyed, and most of your land will have been violently taken away from you by these mysterious people. By the time she was done saying those words, the dance had been abruptly stopped, and the crowd was so silent that you could hear a pin drop. As expected, they didn't want to believe all the things she had just said, but she had never failed them before, so all they could do was stare. And before any of them could react to everything they had just heard, Mepoho continued. I have told you all of these things, and I'd like you to pass them on to your children. But I do not want to live long enough to see our culture get destroyed, so I'll be going away. As she was still seated on a three-legged stool, legend has it that the earth opened up below her and she was swallowed alive. As expected, the crowd including the elders present scattered in fear, and since Mepoho was no more to answer the hundreds of questions that had been left on their minds, their only choice was to pass on the prophecy to younger generations in the hope that this will somehow change the outcomes in the future. The location where Mepoho gave her last legendary prophecies at present-day Kaloleni, Kilifi County, within the Kaloleni Trading Center and several meters away from the Mombasa bus and Matatu terminal. Unfortunately, the scene isn't filled with thick vegetation as one would expect. Instead, the surrounding area has been adversely interfered with, and modernity coupled with Christianity has resulted in the total disregard of this once respected area. Shortly after Kenya gained independence, the Wamamweni clan, which is Mepoho's clan by the way, allegedly sold the land to a gentleman by the name Samuel Kitsao Fondo. But all this development around the area hasn't stopped Mijikenda communities from going there to pray. Even people from as far as Susumbura in Tanzania visit the location to pray and offer libations at the shrine. That's it for today. If you like the content, kindly do not forget to smash the like button below. This will help the channel grow and allow me to make more videos in the future. Also, if you have a topic you think I should cover, do not hesitate to leave a comment below. Thank you and see you again next week.